Capes and conundrums. All right, so what's so important? Pavel asks as he arrives at the firing range. Everyone else on duty is there, and that also means a quarter of the people posted on Skathak aren't here. Still, it was odd for everyone to show up all at once. So glad you can join us, Your Majesty. Hopefully this isn't a problem for you. The sarcastic tone of one of the officers states before anyone else can so much as offer a peep. Considering that the notice went out 20 minutes ago and my shift starts in 5, I can categorically tell you to go fuck yourself. What's going on? Pavel retorts to the amusement of the rest of the crowd. Well, seeing as how I can't discipline you until you're on the clock, I suppose I have to let that slide. Gentlemen, and ladies of course, we are now faced with the greatest trial that any member of the Undaunted can face. The largest and most difficult challenge of your careers, and these coming days will make or break you as a soldier. The base commander states to stop any oncoming argument. He was very, very rarely seen outside of his office these days. Like most admirals under the Grand Admiral, he was overworked, pushed to his limit but managing. However, Admiral Cistern had very much set the trend that the commanders of the Undaunted needed to be almost literally dragged away from their work. Planetary Admiral Hinela was a stern man of Indian heritage who had grown out his mustache since leaving Earth. He was also the anchor of sanity and reason in the sheer crazy that was the method of behavior that Skathak brought out of his men, and was very aware of just how easily things could go off the rails in a place like this. All right, now that everyone is here, including those who would normally be here on the next meeting like this, we have had our greatest temptation delivered. New equipment patterns are now released to the Undaunted after testing. This includes new weapons, such as the army-shattering bouncer as it's been nicknamed, the frozen fire rods and explosive gel in several grades, ranging from Batman to Bomberman to the Key. Why the Key, sir? Someone asks. Because explosive gel of that grade is powerful enough to open any door you will ever come across. No questions asked. Anything else? Does that include doors that exist only in your mind? So long as you have something to put the gel on, you can make a door there. Furthermore, pop gun pattern weapons are now fully approved for the entirety of the Undaunted, meaning you can, on request, get a handheld artillery piece. May whatever gods there are have mercy on us all, Admiral Hinela says in a wry tone, and there's some laughter. To get back on topic, we are going to have a demonstration of both the weapons and a list of the requisition forms required to carry around these absolute monsters. We will begin with the one I will be refusing on principle if you don't give me a damn good reason why you want it. The bouncer. Really? An easily transported bomb that can be applied almost anywhere without issue isn't the scariest thing? The Gel is the least scary of the three if you have any understanding of thermodynamics and understand the sheer amount of axiom screwery going on with the frozen fire rods, which are primarily firefighting equipment that can be used as something other than a bludgeon or a smokescreen in a fight, Admiral Hinela says before walking further into the firing range and then modifying the control panel to turn up the defensive shields up as high as he can. The weapon he picks up resembles a toy more than anything. This is the Bouncer, also known as a bouncing plasma bomb launcher. This is a weapon that can and will clean out an armored position with one shot if you get it into the hardened position. It operates by producing unstable plasma at a rapid rate and will propel itself around on an unending series of explosions to create more explosions in different places. This weapon I hold in my hand is the only one I ever want on Skathak, as the requirement to have another means things have gone to shit in ways I cannot describe without violating codes of conduct and decency. He then fires a single shot into the weapon's range, and a single ball is launched from the device like a toy, and there are several snorts just before the ball hits the far wall. The blue and white explosion of plasma shuts everyone up. The second, third, and fourth that come faster and faster widen eyes, and the fact that the weapon is done warming up and is now causing roughly 5 explosions per second at seemingly random, has the crowd staring boggle-eyed. It's an endless-use plasma grenade that detonates on impact and then hurls itself to its next destination. At its current power level, it will overwhelm a Canador's plasma resistance in under 5 seconds and completely eat through an undaunted brand in 10. The practical use of this weapon is area destruction. It is never to be used in any location where any item of value is held. The device in question is designed to shatter shields and wear down all known forms of armor and resistance. Firing this device in a confined space is a death sentence. Firing it into a confined space is a confirmed kill. How do we stop this thing? Worst case scenario, someone teleports into this room, grabs that gun and points it at us. What do we do, sir? Well, assuming that such an individual isn't shot full of so many holes that they collapse into a pile of bone shards and blood, nulling an area will shut this device down with ease. However, null use is not without side effect. So assuming that we have, say, some sort of tour of Gravia saints who each personally hold entire planets together politically, and without them there will be trillions of deaths a day, containment can be done with shield rings to form a small area to trap the ball in. So long as it's airtight, it will not have sufficient material to create more plasma. This weapon is also useless in a vacuum. So on a spaceship, opening the nearest airlock can and will disable the weapon. And what if you misfire or miss with it? How do you shut it down if you control the weapon? Pavel asks. And Admiral Heinela pushes a button on the side of the bouncer, and the unending cascade of explosions abruptly stop. Ah, good to see, sir. The code on a bouncer is universal, and can be easily mimicked by a standard communicator. This is a deliberate failsafe in the weapons. We'd rather have a weapon of massive destruction easily stopped than unstoppable. It is the opinion of the Admiralty, including myself, that it is better for so dangerous a weapon to lose effectiveness than to have it retained in potentially hostile hands. This bouncer will remain within this room and will be available for testing. You are permitted to place whatever targets you like for it to destroy within the testing area at your leisure, so long as the field remains clean and functional when you're finished. If there is even a single loss of life, be it undaunted, civilian, or even an animal, I will have this weapon destroyed and the pattern deleted from our personal archives with a note of warning to the rest of the Admiralty. Is this understood? Sir, yes, sir. The room responds. Very good. On to our next new toy. Admiral Heinela begins as he uses a touch of Axiom to telekinetically retrieve the inactive bouncer munition and places it back within the weapon. He then turns it off entirely and stores it for everyone to see before retrieving a pair of batons roughly the same size as a cheerleader's baton. Now, to quite literally play with fire. It's rather intimidating to know that some novel series are thousands of volumes long, especially that this monster is one of the smaller novels. Robin notes as he flips through a massive textbook scale book that is heavy and strong enough that he could realistically use it as a battering ram. He mentally judges it about 20 pounds. Damn. He comes across another splat page that gives a visual to the character descriptions and the gear they're using. He gets a stern reminder that many of the characters are women, with the character he had described as a great seducer and foul tempter actually being a man with a thin build and a vague hint of a six-pack abs. He closes the book and tries not to laugh at the thought. Sure, maybe the pretty boy could cause some damage, but he looked like the type to have a full-blown panic if his credit card was rejected even once. Something you don't like? Alviara asks him. Just trying to put that stick figure of a pretty boy into the slot of the great and terrible seducer and corrupter the back of the book painted him as. It's very hard when he looks like a stiff breeze might make him break down and weep. Robin notes as he struggles not to laugh. What? Really? You need to read deeper then. He causes some real damage with just a few words in the right ears. Really? Not every man expresses their power by going out and slugging things in the face. Men are the masters of soft power, especially in this story. The Dark Enchanter rarely does anything directly, but there are a dozen different... Hold on a moment. Alviara explains as she takes the heavy book from him and then flips through it. She stops on a page showing the image of 6 different men seducing 6 different women. The Dark Enchanter kicked off the war not for profit or any real desire beyond their own boredom. They've shattered families, lives, and dynasties just to see if he could. Terrifying. Still, to you he looks like a great and terrible seducer. But to me, he seems horribly underfed and is swanning around flippantly. The kind of person who boasts about how rich his parents are. The kind of person who cries when he doesn't get a 4th luxury car to crash. Wow, Alviara says, trying not to laugh at that image. One of the greatest villains in one of the greatest sagas ever written. As a spoiled child, oh my. Let's call it cultural differences and leave it there. The Saga of the 17 Systems is one part historical thriller, one part fantastical retelling of real events, and one of the most beloved stories the galaxy over. And you're that dismissive of the main villain? What were the real events like? Robin asks, actually fascinated. Most of that information has been lost. But the 17 Systems calamity was a massive on and off war that took place over 1,000 years. This was about 600 years after the introduction to healing comas. So much of the galaxy was still adjusting to their newly unending lives. Little is actually known about the personal life of the major rulers and leaders in that time. But one thing that is known is that one man was connected to literally everyone. In the span of that 1,000 years, one person touched nearly a sextillion lives and then vanished. So they were someone with their fingers in every major pie, was exceptional at getting around and even better at surviving, to the point they may even still be alive today, Robin says before chuckling. Well, isn't that a revelation? Then his communicator goes off and he checks it quickly before shrugging. Just a text. What was that about? Alviara asks. Just an alert that there will be a meeting halfway through my next shift. Likely something dull and tedious. Many of my duties are, he says dismissively. And that is how you make a tornado out of a perfect balance of thermal energies, Admiral Heinele declares as the undaunted around him cheer at the sight of the whirlwind ripping through the target range. So, to summarize, with one frozen fire baton, you can easily have a flamethrower or an instant freeze effect on command. Careful balance will let you shatter almost any hardened surface. With a second one, you can more easily juggle the thermal forces and kick off electrical discharges from the friction of the air rubbing against each other, and even more entertainingly, tornadoes. He then gives a final flourish of the batons and sets the tornado on fire before turning to the crowd. Any questions? Everyone talks at once. Beyond who gets to use these next? Dead silence.